Okay.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Brian Keeler here. It's my great pleasure to be here with Jan Lokuta at his home in DuPont, Pennsylvania, which is kind of between Wilkes-Barre and Scranton, right?
Directly in the middle.
And John has been a collector of my paintings for many years, maybe 20, 25, maybe 30.
Since 1996.
Okay, and how many paintings of mine do you have?
I think I have 12 oils, I have several pastels, and 2 posters.
Okay, so we're gonna, after we've done some introductory remarks about John's history, we'll take a tour and walk around, and you'll get to see some of the paintings. But you see some of them behind us, 2 landscapes that I did. This one here is of the Susquehanna at Sugar Run, and this is just outside of Wyalusing, just west of Wyalusing at Omit's Ferry. So John's a retired lawyer. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, or how you got started collecting?
Well, actually, the firm with which I was associated, we actually had 4 different buildings, and the 4th building was purchased by 2 of my partners, and I had an office there, and there was nothing on the walls. Most lawyers like to have their diploma or their license framed, and I never got into that. And so I decided to do something that I was going to be pleased with. So I went to Laura Craig's gallery, and I found or saw a pastel, which is over to the left here, and I recognized it as the Susquehanna River in Pittston, and I recognized that behind the further bridge, there's 2 bridges in there, seen from the bottom, there's the dome of St. Michael's Byzantine Rite Catholic Church, where my parents were married. So I decided to buy that, and then I saw another painting, probably done about the same time. It also is a view of one of the bridges from the bottom, and in the background is the steeple of St. Rocco's Roman Catholic Church, where my mother's maid of honor was a member of the parish. Okay. So I thought that this was fitting, so I purchased those 2. And then people kept asking me if they were up in Lackawaxen, Pennsylvania, which was not far from Milford, and I said no. I tried to explain to them where it was and what they were looking at. They couldn't grab a hold of that idea. And so I asked you to do a painting looking down at the bridge from the top of the hill in Pittston, and on the left-hand side is St. John's Evangelist Church. On the right side is the former St. John's Baptist Church, and on the other side of the river is the United Methodist Church, and in the middle is the bridge, the buttress of which you see in both of those paintings.
I thought I'd mention that John is a historian and expert on regional and local national history. He has been a guest speaker at the Susquehanna Summer Solstice Fest in Wyalusing, and in French's Island, and he'll do that again this year. So John gives these tours of historic churches, so you'll see that theme in a lot of these paintings. A lot of them have churches in the background, and I love to paint churches. So anything else about your background you want to say?
Well, no, I basically I grew up here in the Wyoming Valley. I went to Wilkes College when I was at college, and I would drive up on a sort of a back road through the Plains, which is a township, and coming up over a rise, there was this beautiful image of Camel's Ledge off in the distance, and further beyond that was West Mountain and Pinnacle Rocks.
And that's on the Susquehanna, right?
Camel's Ledge overlooks the Susquehanna, and they're on the same ridge.
Okay.
And that's the kind of themes I like. I like things that speak of a particular place, whether it's a ridge or the part of a river or a church or industrial buildings. I like to see what is authentic.
Okay,
about a particular
maybe
place.
we'll do the walk around here
Sure.
now. So this one here you bought, did you buy that at my studio or Laura Craig's?
I bought that at Laura Craig's,
Okay.
and that was, of the next few you're going to see, that was the first one I bought.
And this one also from
And
Laura
Old
Craig?
Mays Ferry, I always admired it. I thought to myself, that's a beautiful painting. and it was about the same size as the one of Sugar Run. I believe that's Sugar Run.
Yeah, that the other one was Sugar Run. Yeah, this is a view that I painted many times over the decades. It's a great view. In the barn on the left here is fallen down just in the past year or two, but the one of the things I like about it is this timeless view of
Yes.
northeastern Pennsylvania with these wonderful barns. And I think this barn back here also burned. It's the Howard farm. Both of these are Howard houses and farms, and I went to school with both families. So, all right.
And then the I guess you would call it a pendant piece for
Yeah,
this Sugar
exactly.
Run.
Yeah, that's exactly the
this-
word. Where two paintings are kind of hung together through thematic or size or any number of things.
Is this one, which I think is still Sugar Run.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's the same building, the same time of day, the same season, but it's a totally different feel to it. This particular one is moody and maybe a little menacing, with those shadows and those air holes, those sky holes, and the distorted reflections in the river. A little spooky. So it's nice that an artist like you can go to the same place at the same time of day, in the same season, and show us something completely different.
Yeah.
Just in the mood, just in the colors, just in the amount of cloud cover and the amount of shadow.
Should we go over to this one?
Sure. This is one of my more recent paint acquisitions, and this is in Pittston, and you would think this is a very nondescript kind of setting, but you have captured the beauty of the place by having the sun setting probably in late fall, I would say, late fall, looking down the Wyoming Valley.
And what is this Pittston here, the town?
This is the town of Pittston, the borough of Pittston.
Okay.
And the Susquehanna is on the right-hand side.
Okay. Just as a curiosity, where was the Knox mine disaster
The Knox
in
mine
relation
disaster
to this?
was a mile down those tracks.
Okay. And for those of you that don't know, you want to explain about that?
Yes, in 1959, January of 1959, we had a particularly mild winter, and there had been a lot of ice on the Susquehanna River, but there was a heavy thaw. And mines were supposed to be about 3 feet below the bottom of the river bed. But in this case, in some places, the mine went within 18 inches. And so what happened with all that water flowing down the Susquehanna and only having 18 inches of roof, it broke in, and 12 men were entombed and are still there. And it shut down the deep mining in the Wyoming Valley, the upper reaches of the Wyoming Valley, forever, because the mines were all interconnected.
59, is that
January 1959. It was a particularly warm day. I was in school. I was not yet 9 years old. I remember it. There was a fellow from this town that was killed, and there were two groups of people who made their way to air holes and had to crawl out of the air holes to be saved.
Oh, okay.
So it's a heroic struggle, but it's really it's a lesson. It's a cautionary tale about how we take for granted the environment and abuse it again and again and again.
Shall we go over to this one here? This one is not mine. It's you can tell about it.
Yes, this was actually painted in 1957. It's dated, and I remember this was painted by an art teacher who taught at Wilkes by the name of J. Philip Richards. And he was a friend of my uncle's, and my uncle wanted something to go here. And so he commissioned this view of the Susquehanna River, and to the right, the rightmost, the closest promontory you see is Camel's Ledge. Now we call it Camel's Ledge. It's actually Campbell's Ledge, but that's the northern terminus of the Wyoming Valley. A upstream on the Lackawanna. It's the same valley, but it's called the Lackawanna Valley.
Is this view still available?
No, because the trees have actually grown in to a point where you cannot see that. You'd have to drive down maybe a mile or so to get a similar view.
Okay.
So whereas the Knox Mine disaster, which occurred in 1959, was a cautionary tale, or should be a cautionary tale about abusing the environment, over the years, this section of northeastern Pennsylvania has actually blossomed in terms of the amount of trees, in terms of the amount of forests and woodlands we have.
Yeah. Let's go on to these two paintings. This looks like a Thomas Wise painting.
Yes.
And this is my teacher from the York Academy of Arts. I have to get a good angle. There we go. You want to tell about that?
Well, yeah, I saw this again at Laura Craig's gallery, and I said, that looks like an old master. That looks like something from the, from maybe Vermeer or somebody of that time period.
Yeah, the Dutch Golden Age.
Right, the Dutch Golden Age. And I said to myself, that's a beautiful painting, and so I purchased it. I also have this one, and looking at it, you might say that's really a mess because it's fallen trees.
Yeah.
But what he does with that one beam of light, he actually organizes the entire clutter or the fallen trees with a beam of light.
Yeah, it's beautiful. This is also a Thomas Wise landscape.
Correct.
I find it very poetic and beautiful.
Yes.
Maybe like the Hudson River School.
Yes.
Of maybe Thomas Cole or one of the other members of that school.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just walk around here. And this is the first painting that...
the first oil painting.
Okay, the first oil painting of mine that John purchased. And explain about this location.
Well,
the churches there.
This is what's called the north end of Wilkesboro. And it looks like a really dreary subject. It's probably late winter. It's late afternoon and late winter, and you're driving down and you have, a road that looks kind of menacing. You have nothing on either side, but if you look up the road, you see those two beautiful churches. The one on the left is St. Mary's Byzantine Rite Catholic Church, and the one on the back is St. Matthew's Slovak Lutheran Church. But what I like about it is you don't see the sun, but you see the sun's reflection on those buildings. And every time I see this painting, I say to myself, I want to walk up that hill and see where the sun is setting. That's what it speaks to me in that way.
Oh, nice. And this is near the hospital?
Yes, the hospital would be on the right-hand side.
And what's the name of that?
That hospital is Wilkesboro General Hospital. Okay. It was founded by Joseph Rothrock. Joseph Rothrock was a medical doctor. He actually served in the Civil War, but he founded this hospital. He then leaves the medical profession to become a conservationist.
Wow.
And he was the first person ever to give Gifford Pinchot a job. And he has a state forest named for him. I believe it's in Mifflin County.
Okay.
But he was a naturalist.
Should we go to these two over here?
Sure. This one I asked you to paint, and it's actually some of the same structures. On the right-hand side is the hospital. The onion top domes are St. Mary's. To its left is St. Matthew's Lutheran Church. To the left there, you can see a spire, and that's the former Sacred Heart, a Roman Catholic church, which has been closed.
This one here?
No, to the left.
Oh, okay.
To the left. I may have said it's to the right.
And what's that tower to the left of that?
I think that's an industrial tower.
Okay. And this church over here?
And that's St. Peter and Paul's Byzantine Rite Catholic Church.
Okay.
So if you go ahead.
This little stream here?
This is Mill Creek. This along here, not too far from the hospital, is where the Connecticut Yankees had their first settlement in 1762. In 1762, they had a settlement here, and just upstream from the settlement, the stream flows into the Susquehanna, upstream from the settlement was the original Wyoming. Wyoming comes from the Algonquin word Makawowomi, and there was a Delaware Indian village named Makawowomi that no one could pronounce. It was then changed into Wyowomi, Wyowomic, and then finally Wyoming.
I see my signature there, 2003.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go over to this one here. This is also Pittston.
This is Pittston, yes. This is Pittston, and this is basically, you would think this is just nondescript industrial buildings, but it's the setting sun, probably in November or thereabouts. It lights up the entire landscape.
And what are these buildings that I painted here?
These were just industrial buildings.
Okay.
They were had something to do with the railroad. There's a railroad tracks just beyond them, and some sort of manufacturing. I don't know what. They're still going concerns.
Okay. And these churches here?
The one to the left is St. John the Baptist, which is also featured in your view, the pastel.
Okay.
And the two on the right is St. John the Evangelist, both Roman Catholic churches.
Okay.
And you could see a white spire. That's the top of the United Methodist Church in Pittston. And further to the right is another spire. That is the Presbyterian Church, dating from about 1852.
Okay, should we go
Sure,
over to
that
this? We have a large triptych that we're going towards here, and it's also Pittston,
Yes.
looking upstream on the Susquehanna River.
Yes, looking upstream on the Susquehanna. You're standing on Fort Jenkins Bridge. And what I like about this is to the left of the center line, almost everything is natural. And also, and to the right of the center line, everything is man-made, or most everything is man-made.
I said it was a triptych, but it's actually called a polyptych, meaning many panels. So there's four panels.
Right.
And what church is this?
This is St. Michael's Byzantine Rite Catholic Church, which is where my parents were married.
Oh, great. And this is, what do you call it, Camel Ridge?
Camel's Ledge.
Camel's Ledge.
Campbell, Camel's Ledge.
And that railroad bridge that I painted has been torn down, hasn't it?
No, that was a different one. That was another one upstream.
Oh,
This is the old, let me see if I could get this, Bloomsburg and Lackawanna Railroad track. That dates from the 1830s. The bridge was built probably about 1906. It's still an active bridge.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought
And there are bald eagles just nesting just upstream from there.
great. And this one over here.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites because it's of North End in Wilkesboro, and you have reflections of some of the churches here in a van window. So moving from the left to the right, you have the steeple of, I think that was Sacred Heart Roman Catholic Church. And then you see the onion domes, and that is, I think it's called Ascension, which is a Russian Orthodox church. And you see it a little bit more clearly on the right there.
Over there, okay. Well, I think that's probably good enough. So that's an overview of John's collection here.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to?
No, I just, I think that you have a knack for capturing the place. And that's what I like. I like things that are authentic, and I like things that speak to me, not just because they're familiar, but because you show them in the best possible light.
Okay, thanks so much, John.
You're welcome.